Hey guys, it's Opinion here, and this is an interesting map I found last night. It's a pro-Ukrainian source, but it tells you about an estimate on where the Russian force distribution on the front line to see where the Russians have placed their troops. Now, on average, a Russian battalion tactical group has about 900 soldiers. So with the estimate of 106 to 111, that's about 100,000 soldiers. Now we have to estimate that with each battalion tactical group, there are artillerymen, extra, as well as servicemen and operators and so on. So about 200,000 soldiers in Ukraine right now. As for the force distribution, he says here that Kharkiv was 10, now it's 10 to 12. Izium 30, now 17 to 20. Donbass 32, now 13 to 15. Zaporizhya 11 to 17. Kherson 4 to 27 and 13 to 22, where it was 13 here and 20, now 22 and 4 to 27 here. Now, that of course means that there's a huge concentration of forces here in the south, as we've heard a lot of reports on the past few days that a lot of Russian trains have gone to the south for supplying the military there and transporting troops and equipment. Now, this is about 60 to 70% of the force, so we're most likely going to see some kind of advance or offensive here in the area. There were reports last night that Russia began heavy shelling and some other things, other operations in this area around Zaporizhya. So my assumption as to what is happening right now is a general offensive where they attack through the north here towards Zaporizhya from the west side, and simultaneously against Krivirik. And then at the same time an offensive against Zaporizhya along the whole line of contact down here. Now, why is this their go-to plan? Well, you see, as I mentioned earlier, these supply lines all rely on Dnipro, and if they take all of these, if they take Zaporizhya, then it's basically a clear line to Dnipro, where even if they can't take the city, they'll at least have the ability to cut off their supplies, these two supply lines especially, which will cut off supplies to the Donbass region, where Ukraine has a lot of forces. But similar to Russia, they've also sent a lot of forces here to the south, especially around Mykolaiv and Kherson. So I think we'll see the main hunk of the battle shifting to the south rather than Donbass. But this will also distract reinforcements from going to Donbass and going to the south instead, especially with how most of the forces here in the south are, well, all of the Russian forces are mechanized, but it looks like they are going to make use of this just like at the start of the war, where they are advancing fast. And as I mentioned earlier, it's because we're nearing the end of summer, which means that the ground is going to be soft soon enough. So this is kind of the last offensive. If they manage the ground they manage to take before summer ends, they're going to be able to hold until winter with no issue. This means that they want to take enough to cut off the supplies for the Ukrainians until winter that will keep them from fortifying their positions and letting them able to restart this battle of attrition, and instead keep shelling them to the point of they have to retreat and they don't have the ability to reinforce their positions. So generally, I think we're going to be seeing this. If there are two scenarios here, the first one is that they get stuck in Zaporizhya, because of Ukrainian defenses, which would allow them to dig down here and fortify defenses around Dnipro, as they expect that to be next. Or we could also see them giving up this Bakhmut-Siversk line, falling their troops back to the Sloviansk-Konstantinivka line, which will free up a lot of troops as this line is shorter and more fortified, which will allow them to go back and reinforce the south, as well as possibly seeing troops from up north and other garrisons reinforcing the area as a kind of emergency, which would open up for it would open up for another Russian offensive here from the north and from the northeast, as this will allow the Russians to split their Ukrainian forces into too many areas at the same time. As written in the Art of War, if the enemy stretches their forces thin enough, then everywhere will be weak. They have to concentrate their forces somewhere, which they can't do if they need to reinforce the whole front line instead of just specific areas, especially with the losses they're suffering compared to earlier in the war. At the start of the war, the casualties suffered were about even. Now it's heavily in Russian favor. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching and have a great day.